3.3 Product and Quotient Rule, Part 1, Product Rule. You recall that the derivative of a sum is the sum of the derivatives, and the derivative of a difference is the difference of the derivatives. Unfortunately, the product rule is not as easy as the sum and difference rule. The product rule looks like this. Let me see if I can help you. I call F first, and I call G second. And this is how I say the rule to myself. The derivative of a product is the derivative of the first times the second plus the first times the derivative of the second. The derivative of a product is the derivative of the first times the second plus the first times the derivative of the second. Let's do an example. Find the derivative using the product rule. Alright, so the first thing we need to do is the setup. The derivative of the first times the second plus the first times the derivative of the second. Do the setup. The derivative is the derivative of the first times the second plus the first times the derivative of the second. Next, find the derivative of these pieces. The derivative of x to the third minus 8 is 3x squared, and the derivative of x squared plus 4 is 2x. In order to clean it up, we need to do some algebra. So distribute the 3x squared and distribute the 2x. After you do the distribution, you combine your like terms. I have two terms that have x to the fourth power. So I combine those, and I get 5x to the fourth plus 12x squared minus 16x. And if you want, you can pull out an x. Let's do another example. First, set up the product rule. The derivative of the first times the second plus the first times the derivative of the second. What I did here is instead of using radical notation, I said that the square root of x equals x to the 1/2 power. When I do that, I can then use the power rule. The derivative of x squared is 2x. The derivative of x to the 1/2, well, bring down the 1/2, and then it's x to the 1/2 minus 1. Next, I just clean up my last factor. I've got 2 times 1/2, that's equal to 1. And next, distribute. When I distribute the 2x, for my first term I get 4x to the 3/4. When I distribute the x squared, I get x to the 3/2. Alright, so now I've got x to the 3/2. I have 4 of them, and then I've got x to the 3/2. I have 1 of them, so 4 plus 1 is 5. And that is my final answer. Now, before using the product rule or the quotient rule, ask yourself if the problem can be simplified. Sometimes it is easier to simplify an expression first. Sometimes not. But you want to decide ahead of time. For example, the problem we just did How would we, this problem can be done, not all of them can, but this problem can be done without using the product rule. If you don't want to use the product rule, then just simplify the expression first. So how about if I just go x squared times 2x to the 1/2 plus 1? Well, when I distribute, I have x squared times x to the 1/2. That gives me x to the 5/2. And then x squared times 1 is just x squared. So now when I take the derivative, I don't need the product rule. The derivative of x to the 5/2 is 5/2 x to the 3/2. And the derivative of x squared is 2x. When I do my algebraic cleanup, I see that I get the exact same answer I got before using the product rule. So keep that in mind as you progress in the course. If something's a product, ask yourself, do I have to use the product rule, or can I simplify it first? Take care, and I'll see you in part 2 for the quotient rule.